Good morning. You are listening to First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. I'm your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on firsttitleservices.com and titlecompany.com. As First Title and Escrow, Inc. are the sponsors of this program. They are a leading national title agency, and one more thing, this show will be posted on YouTube.com. Our radio show mission statement: to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for real estate sales across the country. We're going to be talking about real estate, different real estate markets across the country. We've got a lot of topics today. We've got several people calling in. We've got Dallas calling in. We've got Georgia coming in. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doug. Tommy Rowell, Rowell Auctions. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, and it's been a while since we've talked, and love to hear what's happening with Rowell Auctions. Can you tell us a little bit about the company and yourself, sir?
Be glad to, Doug. Rowell Auctions is a 75-year-old real estate company that has been marketing real estate at auction for the past 45 years. In fact, we've converted to 100% auctions about 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we've and what we found, and Rowell Auctions travels throughout the United States, representing lenders and individuals, states, and trust. And we sell a variety of real estate, from land tracts to homes and a good bit of bank foreclosures.
Well, you do a fantastic job, a leader in the auction industry. As you know, we have a diverse group of listeners, from banking officials, bankruptcy, attorneys, but we also have the general public. Can you tell us, you mentioned trust. What does a trust mean? And why would you be auctioning off something for a trust?
Well, trusts are set up by individuals for the benefit of others.
Okay.
Whether it be a trust that is left to a university foundation, and at some point in time, the assets in the trust may need to be sold and converted to cash. And from that standpoint, we would be representing those trusts, liquidating those assets and converting them to cash for other needs.
Very good. Now, Rowell Auctions, again, 75 years, 40 directly into the auction business. What do you see as trends? I've seen that there seems to be more internet bidding than regular ballroom or on the street in front of a house type of auction. Why is that, or do you see that?
Doug, I do see that. In fact, in the last 5 years, our company has been a leader in the United States in selling properties with online platforms. Okay. And we find that the asset that number one, buyers enjoy buying on the internet. Many of our new buyers that just entering into an online auction for the first time, they will be a little skeptical. But when they come to pick up their purchases or sign their contracts on real estate, they'll tell us, this was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And from that aspect, it's producing a better return for our sellers.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very strong believers that the online method is a marketing tool that is here to stay and that will grow exponentially in years upcoming.
And so basically, instead of years ago, you would go to a ballroom and there'd be a lot of people there, but it would take a lot of time to do that, and it would take expense. A lot of people drove hours and hours to get to that hotel ballroom, and then might have had to stay overnight, so there's that cost now. So now internet bidding, basically you can be in your flip-flops and a T-shirt and know exactly what's happening on your website and be able to bid. Is that correct?
That is correct. They can sit in their pajamas and bid. This week we completed the sale of Graham Brothers Construction Company, one of the largest construction companies here in the southeast United States. And it was a online auction only, selling both the equipment and real estate. And the interesting part there was we had 15 bidders from 15 states around that were able to participate in this auction and purchase. And as you noted, the savings and expense of having to travel first to look at it and then go to the auction, whereby they can, we have excellent descriptions with numerous photographs of the items. We have all of the due diligence information posted for the real estate. So really, they can sit and inspect the property fairly well from their laptop.
Well, what about if I'm a new person to this whole deal? I'm going to want to take a look at the contract, maybe the terms and conditions of the sale. Is that available somewhere?
All of that is posted there on the website. Sample contracts, your terms and conditions, how your earnest money deposit is handled. Each aspect of that is outlined so that there are no surprises, that you have full information as to how the system works and what will be expected of you as a successful bidder.
Well, if there were 15 bidders from 15 different states, I imagine that because of the internet bidding, they chose to be involved compared to, well, I'm busy that day, I'm not sure I can get on a plane and get there, and, I'll be away from my family. So it looks like internet bidding is the way to go, sir.
Well, it is. And with mobile technology, with mobile apps today, you, no matter where you are, if you have cell service, you may bid and buy property right wherever you are, so long as you have cell service.
Didn't you tell me a story of somebody that bid on the phone and bought like $1 million property recently, maybe last year, somewhere in the southeast? Or do I remember that correctly?
That is correct. We were selling a home down on the Gulf Coast on St. George Island, and the purchaser purchased the home at $2.8 million.
Wow!
From her telephone.
Amazing. The whole internet and technology is just amazing to continue growing this auction business. And talk about technology. You are part of MarkNet Alliance. Can you tell me a little bit about MarkNet Alliance and why you decided to get involved?
Absolutely. MarkNet Alliance has grown to 60 auction companies nationwide. And the Alliance has been very selective in choosing very knowledgeable, intelligent auctioneers, and we have all put our heads together to develop technology that benefits our clients, our bidders, and ourselves. And without a doubt, we have one of the strongest online platforms available today.
Well, it seems like MarkNetAlliance.com is a go-to website now because of all of these 60 firms put their auctions up on that website. So any given day, you might see hundreds of auctions going on from 10, 20 different states. And if I'm a buyer that wants to know what's happening in the auction world, I'm going to MarkNet Alliance.
Absolutely, Doug. Last year, in 2012, we had 813,000 registered bidders on our auctions for 2012. And we are ecstatic about those kind of numbers, being able to expose properties to that many purchasers is phenomenal.
Can you give me that number again? Because that's, my gosh, that's astonishing.
That's 813,000 registered bidders. That means they went on their our site, inputted all of their credentials, and were qualified to bid on either real estate or personal property.
So when you're talking to banks who have their portfolio of properties that they don't know what to do with, perhaps saying that you've got 813,000 registered bidders in the last year, that's got to be a selling point.
Indeed it is.
And do you see banks, what's the trend right now? Are they still doing the small properties? Are they starting to get rid of some of the bigger assets? I know the government regulators are looking at the financial institutions and saying, hey, you can't hold on to this stuff. What are you going to do?
Well, there are two aspects here that I'd like to bring out.
Okay.
First of all, the banking industry overall is much more healthy than it has been. Those banks, the banks that are selling foreclosed assets due to loans that they made, not from failed banks, their earnings are up, which allows them to systematically sell these assets for current market, writing them down. So we're seeing more assets coming to the market due to the profitability of individual banks. And secondly, you have the banks that have acquired failed banks.
Yes.
And most of those banks were purchased under a loss share agreement with the FDIC, which was a 5-year loss share agreement, which FDIC would participate and pay for the loss in the sale of these assets, a major portion of the loss in these assets. So those agreements are beginning to come to termination dates, and therefore these banks are looking to move more of these assets out of their portfolios and clean up that portfolio with FDIC.
Got it. And to go back to one of your first comments, sometimes in a tough economy, in tough financial times, a bank might have properties it needs to sell, but because of the percentages and regulations, they may not be able to sell it unless it gets top dollar, else they take a loss, which might put them under. Is that something like that? Give me your perception on that.
Well, that does occur, and that's dealing with the Tier 1 capital. Banks are required to have a certain amount of Tier 1 capital, which is the safety and soundness of that bank.
I see.
And when it falls below those levels established by FDIC, then they have to raise more capital. So, and when you sell an asset that you have foreclosed at a loss, typically that loss will reduce your capital by the amount of the loss. So, banks just can't say, well, the market's at 30% of where we loaned on it at the high market, and we can sell it. Sometimes they have to work those sales out.
Well, that
may take time.
That's a great explanation, and that's a lot of people don't know that type of thing. So excellent work on that. And you have, when we talk about FDIC, you have been a strong proponent of selling government assets by auction. There are many government assets that are not being used. They're abandoned. And I know you've been up to Washington, D.C. to talk to senators, to talk to congressmen, to talk to basically government agencies about what can happen if auctions could help them and bring more money back. So give me what you've done and what you're pushing and what your suggestion is, sir.
Well, Doug, in essence, we've been up to Washington encouraging congressmen that especially are focused on these surplus assets to utilize public auctions in order to efficiently and effectively sell these properties for market value. And in today's world, I believe the number is that there are like 14,000 surplus properties that are costing the government, we taxpayers, $1 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion a year to hold these properties, to keep keep them secured, keep them maintained, keep the utilities on, and that's money that we are just absolutely losing, and our congressmen need to pass a legislation whereby requiring the sale of these assets and the funds being applied, hopefully, to the deficit.
Well, you've also been to congressional hearings where people like Congressman Denham from California and Congressman Micah from Florida have gone to different locations and say, hey, this property isn't being used. Why are we not selling it? Give me that story, if you would.
Well, there is a federal courthouse down in downtown Miami that is no longer being utilized. A new courthouse was built across the street from the old courthouse, so you've got roughly a city block in downtown Miami that is most valuable, with a beautiful old building that is not being used at all. In fact, when we went in for the hearing that Congressman Denham held, the musty odor of an old, stale building was so present. And they were questioning GSA, and GSA is the Government Services Administration, is responsible for maintaining those buildings, selling those buildings, and a lot of that hearing was focused upon GSA's lack of movement to sell those properties.
What a wonderful thing is if there's, and I've heard different numbers, 14,000. I've heard much bigger than that, believe it or not. And these aren't residential properties. These are warehouses and just like you said, office buildings, courthouses,
post offices.
Yes. And what if rather than the taxpayers saying, okay, here's another year, it's not being used, I'm paying holding cost of $1 billion for these properties, why don't we just sell them? Because if a private sector person came into the building and bought it obviously money going back into the Treasury and government agencies, but what else happens when private sector buys the building and therefore maybe enhances the area?
Well, Doug, several things occur when we take those government-owned assets and put them back into the private sector. First of which, we're going to create jobs.
Nice.
Through the redevelopment of that property. You're going to be spending large sums of money renovating, redeveloping these properties, which create jobs. And then when we put businesses in these buildings, we're creating additional jobs that will last for many, many years. And then the other aspect is when the federal government owns a property, they don't pay property taxes, ad valorem taxes.
Yes, sir.
So once you put that back into the private sector, then the private sector is paying ad valorem taxes on that property, which more evenly spreads the tax burden of that county. So that's a huge positive for our county governments.
Well, I give you kudos for going to Washington several times and speaking with our nation's leaders to push the fact that these properties need to be sold, to push the fact that auctions would be a great way to do it because of transparency and fairness. And so, very nice job on that end, sir. What kind of upcoming events do you see for Rowell Auctions or MarkNet Alliance, sir?
Well, MarkNet Alliance currently has 200 auctions that are on the calendar.
Wow.
That are will be sold, and that's across the nation. As far as Rowell Auctions, we've got commercial buildings in Tifton, Georgia. It was occupied by the Georgia Peanut Commission. We're selling the building and the furniture, fixture, and equipment there on the 25th. On the 26th, we have bank assets that are ranging from a motel over on the Georgia coast in Kingsland, Georgia, to a boathouse on Lake Seminole, and then waterfront properties down on the Gulf Coast. We'll be selling there on the 26th. And then we've got 375 acres of land selling in Lee County, Georgia. That is good property there, good investment, rock solid. And then we have a business liquidation coming up at the end of next week. So we're very busy in today's market, but we still have plenty of time to represent many other sellers. So I would invite anybody that has property for sale to give us a call at 1-800-323-8388, or visit us at Rowell Auctions. That's ROWELLAUCTIONS.com, and you can click on upcoming auctions or send us an email. Either way.
So all of those auctions you just talked about will be on your website, and that's RowellAuctions.com. And those 200 auctions you talked about, where do people go for that?
MarkNetAlliance.com.
MarkNetAlliance.com. Mr. Rowell, it is a pleasure as always. Thank you for coming on the show. Again, thank you for the hard work working with the government and trying to explain to them that selling government assets by auction is the right way to go. It's the fairest way to go. It's the most transparent way to go. And so kudos. And again, it's RowellAuctions.com. Can you give us that 800 number one more time?
That's 800-323-8388.
Very good. Tommy, thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Doug. Take care.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Tommy Rowell, CEO of Rowell Auctions in Moultrie, Georgia. He is the CEO and really a leader of the auction industry. There is a auction conference coming up in Indianapolis, the National Auctioneers Association. I believe it's in mid-July, and you can go to the National Auctioneers Association website to find out more about that. Upcoming auctions, he's got a whole bunch. Go on RowellAuctions.com. 200 different auctions on MarkNetAlliance.com. We also want to thank Brent Lockhart from Five Star Institute. Big conference coming up. You want to go to dsnews.com to find out about that. Lots of good information for the general public and real estate professionals and mortgage professionals that was given today. I want to thank our guest again, Brent Lockhart from Five Star Institute and Tommy Rowell of Rowell Auctions. Exciting stuff. We are going to have another show next week. We've got great leaders from across the country. We heard from Dallas today. We heard from Georgia today, and we'll hear more. Thank you so much for listening, folks. Have a wonderful weekend.